Hey everybody, Travis Clater back with another strategic thought for the day. Now, there's so much attention on extremist views or activities that it's easy to forget that the majority of the people in the world that you would consider your audiences aren't actually extremists. Yes, we hear about them the most and we see them amplified across social media, but that doesn't mean they're the majority. In fact, a Pew Research study showed that 92% of US tweets come from 10% of Twitter users. That same study showed that the median user tweets about once a month, while the heaviest users of the platform tweet about 157 times each month. So most of that activity is coming from a small number of people. Now, we're not going to get into dealing with extremists or activists today, but we've talked a lot about being prepared for a crisis. So make sure you check out those blogs. Today, we're going to briefly talk about the non extremists, or you've probably heard them referred to as the middle, or the term that I really like is the movable middle, because that really is indicative of what we're trying to do. These are the people that aren't on the very ends of any spectrum for marketers and communicators. This is the group of people, or these are the groups of people that you have a shot at selling something to or getting them to take action on something. They don't hate your brand, nor do they love it. They're right in the middle. This group is willing to listen to opinions or arguments or viewpoints, even if they don't currently align with their active viewpoint. And I do mean currently because they're often willing to change that viewpoint or adapt their viewpoint on a particular issue or a topic or a brand based off of the arguments or information that they hear and they deem credible. Now, the good news is that this group is typically larger than the extremist group of any topic or issue, that you're trying to get out there. So there's a large group that's sitting there in the middle, and there's no shortage of opinions on ways to reach them or science behind why they make certain decisions or the choices that they do make. Today, I simply want to give you some tips that I've found to help you attract more of that movable middle for your branding and communications efforts and campaigns. First and foremost, make it simple and easy to understand. The reality is that most people do want to be a part of something bigger and better than themselves, but unfortunately, they really don't have a lot of time. Everybody's stretched super thin to dive deep into complex issues. What this leads to is a scenario where whoever can explain the information the quickest and make it the easiest to understand and make it meaningful in the eyes of the audiences, they win. For brands, this means we need to make sure that the information that we're providing is easy to understand and simple to explain to others. And that's the big part of it. Yes, we need to make it simple to understand for them, but we also need to make it simple for them to explain to others, which gets me into my second piece of advice, which is empower your supporters as advocates. It takes a lot of time and a lot of resources for brands to garner trust among their key audiences. And no matter how much you try, or how meaningful your mission is, or how authentic your brand is, there will always be a barrier between you and your audiences. People just naturally distrust brands, which is why you're always one comment away from a crisis. But people love endorsements by what appear to be unbiased sources. So you need to empower your supporters as advocates that will go to bat for you and communicate with that movable middle, because that's what that movable middle is looking for. Your words will only take you so far, but with the endorsement of others, you're going to go a long way in terms of getting that movable middle to come a little further on the advocate side. Third, leverage transparency. The worst thing that can happen with any segment of your audience is that they think you're hiding things. If you adopt a model of transparency, you can foster stronger relationships with that movable middle without them even knowing you're doing it. And I've talked a lot about the 5 W's of transparency, so make sure you take a look at that blog. But everybody wants transparency in the end, and that means brands need to use transparency for positive interactions as well as crises to build the equity that they're going to need to turn that movable middle into, if not an advocate, at least a consumer or a customer of yours. Four, answer the difficult questions. This one is tough, especially for communicators that are trying to deal with a crisis or even just day-to-day activity. It's not always roses and sunshine for brands. In fact, most larger brands get tough questions every day across their channels. And it's a difficult thing, although the idea is simple. If somebody asks a tough question, provide an answer. I'm not talking about trolls who are out to damage your brand or make you look bad. Those should be dealt with in a completely different way. Again, that's a crisis issue. But if you have customers, followers, fans, or other members of your audiences who are engaging with you and ask tough questions, don't ignore them. Be actively engaged in the conversation. Ultimately, you can't move somebody from the middle to your side if you're not actively engaging with them. And finally, number five, create purpose and meaning for your audiences. We've talked a lot about what it takes to create advocates and brand supporters, but you can't get them to talk about you if they don't feel good about it. So find ways to infuse purpose behind your messaging, and certainly for your calls to action. If you can create meaning behind the engagement that your audiences have with your brand, they're going to feel a lot better about endorsing you to their friends or family or across their networks. And if they can be a part of making the world a better place, helping something, or just supporting a cause, or just feeling good about it, they're going to naturally want to support the brand, moving them closer to being an advocate for your organization or for your brand. Now, we can talk for days and days about this very, very complicated topic, but short and simple, use these 5 tips and you're well on your way to engaging that movable middle and getting them closer to being brand advocates. And there's your strategic thought for the day. Make sure you head over to tcstrategic.com for more posts, as well as to sign up for our newsletter, and we will see you back here again soon. Thanks.